Wow. Hello there. Hey guys, I just put in the chat. Where are you from? I see Christy is here from Nevada. We got an out-of-stater. We got Nairi here. Hi, Nairi. So good to see you. So drop that in the chat. It's always a fun way to start off to just kind of figure out where everybody's from. If we're lucky, we'll have some internationals. We'll see. We got Lancaster. Lancaster's almost international. It's over the hill from you guys, and they have a different airport. Palm Springs. Hi, Nietzsche. Yeah, Christina, Connecticut. All right, we're now bi-coastal. Christina, you can share this as a bi-coastal event. Bermuda Dunes, it's down there in the Caribbean. Am I right? Is that Bermuda? No, different Bermuda. Hi, Christia. I don't know if you heard me earlier. Good morning, everybody. Hi, everybody. Okay, so let's get started here. Share screen. Let me get my slides open here. And I'm going to do a thing that I'm going to do a thing that's a little different than I've been doing lately for you guys. I got a little bit of a fresh take on what we're going to do today. I'm going to spend about 40 minutes or so kind of talking about like my theory of school and education and kind of like the impetus for EduProtocols. One of my good friends, Andrew Schwab, one time we were doing some PD for his school district. He's got about, I think, 600 teachers. And he's like, how do I get my teachers to think like Jon? And I was like, well, okay. So there has been several things that have inspired me over the years to think differently. And if you guys don't know me at all, my big push is I do not want to wake up at the end of my career and say, we got through the book every year. I don't want to say that. That's not my job. My job is not to get through the book. My job is not to hand out published items from people like Scholastic and Houghton Mifflin. That's not my job. My job is not to hand things out and then spend my weekends scoring them. Can I get some hand claps for that? Because that's the jam right here. I'm a professional educator. I educate human children to be their best. That's what I do for a living. I create my own lessons so that kids can master the standards, not just blaze through them. So here's my little welcome slide. A little bit about me if some of you are going, who the heck is this guy? Here's my credentials. I'm a 2.9 GPA all the way through K-8, high school, junior college, and my first half at Fresno State. My last 2 years at Fresno State were in advertising, which became project-based learning. And guess what happened? My GPA jumped to 4.0. That was very important for me as a teacher when I moved into teaching later because my wife made me. She said, you're going to be a teacher and that's how it's going to be. And when I started teaching, I went, oh, so these kids are not any more engaged than I was. I started teaching on an emergency credential. Shout out to all the emergency credential people. I spent 4 years on my emergency credential. I only cleared it. I only cleared my emergency credential because my district said, if you don't finish this process, we're going to fire you on March 15th. And I was like, okay, let's do this. I've taught grades 5 through 8 for about 10 years. I got to start a high school from scratch, which I'm telling you guys is a big old fun time, but it darn near kills you. Because think about this: first parent meeting, first day of school for a whole high school, first football game, first prom, first homecoming, first graduation. Though all those firsts are awesome, but man, they wear you down. I've been a county teacher of the year in Madera County. I've taught high school, language arts, and film studies. I'm an Apple Distinguished Educator, Google certified, blah, blah, blah. Besides being a classroom teacher, I've also been a principal. I've been a county level assistant superintendent and tech director, and they made me be the risk management guy at the same time because I had 1 extra hour a week. You guys know how that goes. And then in my previous career with a major nonprofit in the California and Nevada area, I helped train over 55,000 teachers in a little over 5 years, which was really, really cool. And then I wrote this book thing called EduProtocols, which is kind of what we're going to be talking about in a little while. So Christina and Paul, you're really good at this because we've hung out a lot. Watch the chat. If people have pithy input or hard questions, just to remind me to ping that. Because I don't think of this as a presentation as much as an experience, which means I don't always know exactly what's going to happen. So if you have a thought or something pops into your head, definitely jump in and shout it out. I do not mind that kind of stuff. Now, I'm kind of a history guy, And so this is always the teacher I wanted to be. If you guys think, like Tom Hanks in Saving Private Ryan, he's so cool. Like he's so chill, and he's organized, and he's actually a teacher if you haven't seen the movie. But this is just a closer reality to who I am as a teacher. I'm wearing a Hawaiian shirt. We're making nachos on Friday. I'm kind of all over the place. So just, a little introduction to me. I'm not like, that's just not the way I was born. One of the things my wife did help me do when I was assistant soup, she said, you got to be more presidential. So I learned to slow it down sometimes. But in the classroom, it's a big old fun learning party, and who knows what's going to happen next. Next thing is, because I know one of our little themes for today, or major theme, I should say, is kind of equity and SEL and looking at those kinds of approaches. This is me in kindergarten, you guys. I was pretty cute back in the day. I don't know what happened, but I'm not what I appear to be. A lot of people, when they look at me, they may stereotype and cliche me as like, hey, there's a white guy from privilege, or hey, there's a guy who's had it easy his whole life. Let me tell you guys a couple of stories just to get you in the mood. That's me in kindergarten for my first picture. I'm left-handed. I'm right-footed. I have two different colored eyes. I'm dyslexic. I'm dysgraphic. I stutter. I'm shy. I'm an introvert. And in kindergarten, my first big memory of kindergarten, you guys, I'm the only kid in class that can't tie my shoes. You know why? I've only been 5 for a month. And some of the kids in my class are 6, but I'm 5 and I don't get that. So the next 12 years I spent thinking that I was kind of dumb. Neither one of my parents finished college. I was the first one to be, to get a degree in our family. My dad was a tractor driver when he married my mom. We're not from a family of, rich people. My dad has, he had to create all of his own success. And so just know that when I'm talking today, everybody has something, right? Everybody's struggling with something. A little bit more about me too. You'll see I'm also a football player, except I'm only 5'6" and I weighed 105. I was a 4'11" freshman. I guarantee you, no matter what color you are, when you're a 4'11" freshman, everybody's scary because I was always 2 minutes from getting dumped in a trash can by a senior. So I understand what it's like to be the outsider. I understand what it's like to be the underdog. I understand what it's like for people to misjudge me based on my looks. So just know that I have that background. And then I also want to stop off real quick and talk, because it's Martin Luther King weekend, you guys. I love this quote. Let's judge people by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin. And I would highly encourage anybody that's an educator in this class, if you've not seen the movie Selma, I love history. I love 60s history. I've read up on John F. Kennedy, Malcolm X, and all that stuff. Watch the movie Selma over the weekend to really understand what it was he did in detail. The amount of bravery was just out of control for Martin Luther King in that scenario, and what he did in a positive way, which I'm going to draw a contrast with an event that I won't talk about on January 6th. He got things done without being the bad guy. So definitely watch Selma if you're a history teacher or a teacher who teaches history. And now we're going to move on to some more fun stuff. Perspective is so important in teaching. And imagine that you're on a desert island by yourself and there's just one coconut tree and all you can ever do is drink coconut water to stay alive. And you look on the horizon and you see a boat. But guess what's happening right now? The guy on the boat is saying, land, because he's been sitting in a little life raft for 2 months and he doesn't have anything either. So understand that perspective. And I'll give you a little bit more of that. When I taught K-8, I thought it would be so great to be a high school teacher and have a prep. How fancy would I be with a prep? A prep sounds so organized. I'll put on my tweed jacket and I will grade all my papers and I will be so up to speed on my planning so that I will elegantly stroll into the classroom with my perfect lecture prepared and all the children will love me. Well, it turns out that in high school, in 44 minutes a day, the kids it's not the same as K-8. And within 4 months of teaching high school, I was like, I want my 6th graders back because we spent the whole day together and I could Stockholm syndrome them and turn them into my little clones because I had them all day. So that perspective of teaching on both ends of the spectrum is my big point here. Is teaching K-8 is hard. Teaching high school is hard, you guys. Don't be envious and jealous of your peers. Here's another perspective. What if you're a toothbrush? I hate my job. Nobody appreciates me. They use me for 2 minutes at the beginning and then at the end of the day, and then they just throw me in a drawer. But Paul, what if you were toilet paper? How would you like your job then? Yeah, they just throw you away. So this perspective thing is really important when we're talking about empathy. We got to look at both people's sides of the story to really have that patience and that perspective. Now, one of the first things I want to show you guys about, if you haven't ever seen the book Dumbing Us Down, I know a lot of teachers have heard of it. Okay, I know a lot of teachers have heard of it. That's not the question I'm asking. What I'm saying is, you guys really should read it. And if you look at this book, you need to understand that, and this is where I'm going to start building my base for equity and access. You need to understand that as bad as we've had with racial problems in schools and inequity between races in school, school is built to be bad for nearly everybody, regardless of their income or race. And if you don't want to buy the whole book, just look up John Taylor Gatto. He was the New York State Teacher of the Year twice. Super legit. So this is a quote from his book. School is a 12-year jail sentence where bad habits are the only curriculum I truly learned. I teach school and win awards doing it. I should know. Okay. This is the book I read the summer of my first year of teaching. It totally changed my perspective of the system that we work in that's called school. Okay. And let me give an example. If any of you have had a first, second, or third grader on Sunday night crying and coming unglued because you need to sign their reading log and they didn't actually read, that's that in action, you guys. You are basically teaching kids to lie to institutions. Yeah, I'll just sign the thing if you'll stop crying and go to bed. Okay. So we've got to be aware of the system that was built. Here's another quote from Gatto. The lesson of report cards, grades, and tests is that children should not trust themselves or their parents, but should rely on the evaluation of certified officials. People need to be told what they're worth. So Gatto goes very deep on this idea of compulsory schooling and really how detrimental it to people's self-worth. And if you look at some of the craziness that's going on in our nation right now, school has a portion to do with it, because school is inflexible, school is mean, school forces everybody to be the same. And I'm going to go farther into that. Don't worry, this ends with a happy thing. I'm just trying to get your attention right now, so we're not going to do this the whole time. All right, next, another quote from Gatto. And I want you guys to really think about this. This was once a land where every sane person knew how to build a shelter. Think of the pioneers. They would get in a wagon and just drive across country in a wagon. They would build their own houses as they went. Okay. They would grow food. Nearly everybody farmed at some point. And they knew how to entertain one another. They didn't need a TV or a musical box called an iPhone or iPod to enter. They could do those things by themselves. And it's the architects. Now we have been rendered permanent children. It's the architects of for school who are responsible for that. So Gatto's argument is that school is meant to separate people so that they become dependent on marketing and sales and products. And if you're worried about, if you watch The Social Dilemma, if you're worried about things like that, big tech is not the biggest problem. School is the biggest problem, you guys. You spend 6 hours a day in school as a student getting told, this is the way it is, this is the way it is, this is the way it is. And that's why sometimes I call it the edu gulag, because you're a very normal person. How many of you guys have resource students that are fine outside of school, but for 6 hours a day, they're told they're not okay? There's a point in time where people give up. And if you teach 7th and 8th grade, I'm here to tell you guys, the reason they don't participate in school is because they've been trained that it is dangerous to participate in school. Those are the same kids that are going to raves on the weekends. They understand all about having fun, but they don't do it in the context of school. So read up on some Gatto. I think you'll really appreciate it. Now, here's some statistics for you guys. We've been working on this game of school for about 70 years. As of 2 years ago, these were the stats from the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics. Oh, Eduardo's tardy. I'm going to let him in. He's got a tardy pass. Welcome, Eduardo. Welcome, Eduardo. You're tardy, but we accept you as you are. Not a problem. According to the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics, 59% of students are not ready for college math. You guys, 59%. That is a big number for 12 years worth of work. 12 years. Can you imagine a football team, Paul, where 59% of the high school seniors are not ready for college football. How do we get in a huddle? What's a double pass? What, he went out of bounds and came in? That's not legal. How can you explain doing something for 12 years with a nation full of kids and at the end they're still not good at it? That's because the techniques we're using are not effective. Okay, here's another example. High school math scores have been basically flat for 40 years, you guys. And if you're a math teacher, or you're like me, a self-contaminated teacher that teaches math, that's not entirely your fault. That's the system. And it doesn't mean you're not trying hard. And it doesn't mean you don't care. And it doesn't mean you don't spend weekends grading papers. What I'm talking about is results. Does that make sense? And let's do a quick comparison. NASA versus SpaceX by Elon Musk. Who's winning right now? Elon Musk has spaceships that are doing belly flops and landing back on the landing pad. NASA can barely get one in space. One's a government entity and one is based on results and being innovative, right? So we got to really think about that. Another big question. Kids in your class, do they get Fs because they cannot do the work or because they do not do the work? And I'm going to tell you, in my experience, most of the kids that get Fs, and it's not many in my class, but the ones that struggle most of the time are kids that do not do the work. So what's my job, Paul, if kids do not do the work?
That's a great question.
My job is to create work they want to do, which is what I'm going to show you guys how to do in the second half. Guess what? Kids are savvy nowadays. They have watched Office Space, and I didn't say The Office. They know the song It's Good to Be a Gangster. They know what it's like to kick the copier that doesn't work. Seventh graders 8 years ago in my class, their number one most popular movie was Office Space, you guys. And that's not like The Office. But you guess what? My number one show right now with sixth graders is The Office. They know what it's like to have a crazy boss ask them to do work that doesn't matter. And they're going to spend all their effort doing the least amount of possible work. Okay, that's the way it works. So if you're asking kids to do worksheets, if you're asking kids to read the chapter and answer the 3 crappy questions at the end, the result you're going to get is kids that don't do the work. Okay, so that's the way that works. Next thing. School no longer is about out remembering. When I was in second grade, the kid that could remember all the states was the smartest kid in the room. Nowadays, I have this, and I don't have to remember all the states. What I need to know is how do the states work together? It's not about out remembering people anymore. It's about out creating people. It's about being collaborative. It's about making things. It's about blowing minds. And one more inspirational quote for you guys. This is from Fawn Gwyn. And I left out her F word. The original post had an F word in it too. You guys, you don't have to teach. You get to. If you don't like teaching, which I'm going to theorize that the vast majority of you on a Saturday morning hanging out with me talking about school, the vast majority of the people in here do like teaching. But if you don't like it, you can stop. Starbucks is hiring, Amazon's hiring. There's places you can get a job. If you don't like this job, you need to stop. And maybe somebody in this group is like, yeah, you're right, I should stop. If you don't like kids and you don't like teaching kids and you don't like shaping kids' future, please do us all a favor. Stop. We can get other teachers. It's not easy, but it's important that we do that. And bear in mind, I say that having been that guy. I used to have my kids line up alphabetically to turn in their packets. I'm going to slow that down for a second. I used to have my kids line up alphabetically to turn in their packets. You know why? Because Taylorism says that the most efficient way to do things is not a personal interaction. And I would have my kids line up to turn in their packets. Why did they line up in alphabetical order? Because it was faster for me to grade if they turned their homework in alphabetical order. I was saving 22 seconds. And one day I looked over and Megan was crying at her desk and I did not see it. And Megan was literally blubbering. And I was so busy collecting papers that I did not realize that I was breaking Megan's heart. Megan forgot to do her packet. Megan had 14 weeks in a row of doing her packet. One of the things Megan was afraid of was that when you lined up in my class to turn in your packet, if you did not have your packet, you called your own mom and turned yourself in. I didn't call your mom. You call your mom. Megan was so terrified of calling her mom, even though she had done her homework and was a straight A student for 14 weeks, that she was literally sitting in her chair coming unglued. And the kids had to point that out. I didn't even see it. And what I said to myself was, I just created that trauma for no reason at all over a packet. I created that trauma. And I looked over at Megan and I said, you don't need to do the homework this week. You're off the hook. And the other kids were like, what? If you've ever seen The Sandlot, right? What do you mean? I go, hey, she's got 14 in a row. You got one in a row, Paul Gordon. You're going to be okay if you do your packet again this week. So that moment really triggered a thought for me. Do we need to do the packets? And I quit, you guys. I've been pretty much homework free since about 2003, since that day. Guess what happened to my standardized grades? This is the best answer ever. They didn't go up or down. I'm just a lot happier. That's the difference. Because I don't have to chase kids around. I have to be mean to kids about that kind of stuff. And so everything I'm going to tell you, understand, I've been that guy. I've been that guy that was that organized, that it wrecked kids' lives. And then one more thing from my friend Sam Patterson, at Sam Patui on the Twitter, at Sam Patui, super cool guy. This is the best blog post I've ever read. Don't raise your hand. I'm calling on everybody. So I quit doing things like popsicle sticks, and I quit doing things like poker chips, because when you ask kids to be compliant by randomly picking names, most of the Jeanettes and Bavinis and Christinas are saying, don't pick me, don't pick me, don't pick me, don't pick me. Their brain is not saying, I have a wonderful answer I cannot wait to share with Mr. Corippo. Hopefully he will pick my name at random. And he has terrified me into listening by threatening me publicly. That is not how people react to that. So let's use tools like Quizzes and Quizlet, and let's use tools like Google Slides to have everybody answer. Let's use the EdTech to have everybody answer. Why have one person answer when I can have everybody answer? So that's what I'm going to be building up to and showing you guys. Now I'm moving to another favorite book of mine. Oh yeah, and here's our motto for the day: teach better, work less. And what you want to do is you want to have dramatically better scores and get your nights and weekends back. Can I get some of this action for that? You want to have dramatically better scores, and yet you want to work less. And we have got to get rid of the teacher martyr thing. You guys, sorry, I can't go wine tasting with you this weekend. Got 100 essays to grade. Yeah. Guys, can't barbecue with you this weekend, Paul. Got a lesson plan all day Sunday. We just went back to face-to-face. Oh my gosh. You guys, with EduProtocols, I do my lesson planning in about 19 minutes a week. Think about that for a hot second. I do my lesson planning before I go home, and I do a brain dump on the weekend. Literally on Monday, I got to go, what's my lesson plan? Oh yeah, I remember all this. And we start. Okay. So teaching better and working less. All right. Now I'm going to do a little more background theory for you. These are World War II fighter cockpits. Now, if you've ever owned a 1960s era VW Bug, you know that there are only 3 positions to the seat: small, medium, large. What if you're extra large, Paul? We don't got that. You just squeeze it in, you bend your legs a little more, but you love the car, so you make it work. So in World War II, fighter pilots were specifically picked by size, not by skill. You had to be taller than 5'5" and shorter than 6'1". So think about this: during World War II, some of the best fighter pilots in the United States were 5'4" or 6'3", and they never got to participate because they were the wrong size. Because we don't make that size. So what happened after World War II was we started crashing a lot of jets. And they tried to apply this logic of the pilot must fit the plane. They tried to apply that to jets. Well, as you may imagine, jets are high-performance aircraft. At one point in the late 50s, early 50s, sorry, the United States was crashing something like 5 jets a week. Can you imagine that? 5 jets a week. And they found out that most of the time it was pilot error. And sometimes it was I pushed the wrong button. Sometimes it was I can't reach the button. Sometimes it was I'm not a good fit for the plane. So they did a study. This guy, Gilbert Daniels. Now, I'm going to slow this down a little second. He took 4,000 pilots. 4,000 pilots. Remember, these pilots were selected to be a certain size range. So this is not a true random sampling. This is people that are between 5'6" and 6'1". And he measured 4,000 in 10 ways: size of the wrist, length of the forearm, waist, chest, all neck, all these. He measured 10 different physical dimensions. And the researchers assumed that a high percentage of the pilots would fall within average. Have you guys heard of the term average? You heard of average? Okay. Check this out. 4,000 pilots. Not one pilot fell into average. That'd be zero. Zero pilots were average. Out of all 10, none were average. Yeah, Dora, this book is amazing. You see where I'm going with this. Only 3.5% of the 4,000 pilots fell into an average of 3 dimensions. So they had to get rid of 7 of the 10. And if you sit in a car nowadays, and Paul, do you have a car where the seat it's incremental? You can recline. So if you're
with button 1 and button 2, so if I'm driving or if my wife is driving.
Yep. That concept came from this study. The Air Force realized that they needed to make the plane fit the pilot. Lesson for education. How many of you have desks that are all exactly the same height? I guarantee you, Paul and I do not fit in the same size desk very well. So it ends up being bad.
Can confirm.
But it ends up being bad. I don't know if you guys know, Paul's like 6'7", I'm like 5'2". So there's a big dimension. Plus he's also got girth on me. I'm super skinny and he's not as skinny as I am. I'm a willow compared to Paul. He's a big man.
I feel like this is where we go to football.
Okay. So the book is The End of Average by Todd Rose. And the central premise of the book is deceptively simple. Nobody's average. That would be zero. Nobody's average. Here's some fun facts if you don't believe in this guy. He dropped out of high school twice. Not once. No, not good enough. Dropped out twice. And now he's a Harvard level researcher. Okay, so I'm going to walk you guys through the book. Bear in mind, according to the state tests, I'm only on the 82nd percentile in reading comprehension. So I'm doing my best here. If I make any mistakes, don't blame it against me. The standardized test says I'm only 82nd percentile. And yes, I can provide visual evidence of that. So here's the big idea. Here's person 1 on the left and person 2 on the right. And I know those letters are a little bit small for you guys. So I'm going to read the list from top to bottom. Understanding similarities, vocabulary skills, general knowledge, block design, matrix reasoning, visual puzzles, number memory, arithmetic, symbol searching, encoding. They both have the same IQ, but can you see the jaggedy lines? Those are the differences. Okay, so again, I'll throw Paul under the bus. Paul might be really good at algebra, but maybe he's not super good at doing looking at statistical analysis. They're not necessarily related. Or think about this. In the American universities right now, we want a kid who's a perfect score on math and English on the SAT. Let's think about this for a second. Do any of you have a friend that's an English teacher that is horrified by math? Because I am. Do any of you have math teachers that are horrified at the idea of reading Shakespeare? You know why? Those are different skills. And yet, what do colleges want? They want a person that can do both. That is a rare bird. And what's even worse is you're accidentally throwing out some of your best language arts people because of bad math scores. You're accidentally throwing out some of your best math people because of bad language arts scores. And how much language arts do you need to do to be a programmer? You need basic language arts. You don't need to be able to write Shakespearean sonnets if you're a programmer at Google, I'm pretty sure. Okay, so this is, if you like this picture, and by the way, I'm going to share the slides with you guys at the end. This book is written in a very Gladwell Freakonomics kind of style. It's not super geeky. And I'm going to just kind of blast through a little bit of it here for you. This is the guy, Adolf Kettele. He invented the idea of a curve that looks like a bell. Okay, so he invented that because he wanted, literally his goal was to invent something. So this is what he invented. Until this guy, there was no concept of average or bell curve, no concept. And so he applied it to military uniforms. And if you've been in the military, you know that almost everybody's boots are the wrong size because nobody's average. And they're trying to build a boot that fits the average. The same with pants and all those kinds of things. So he tried to use it, and he believed that the individual was synonymous with error. He believed individual characteristics were errors. So this is from Quetelet's first 2 attempts at establishing a bell curve. Then we get this guy, super friendly. How many people want to be in this guy's class? Very approachable. This is Charles Darwin's cousin. His name's Sir Francis Galton. Sir Francis Galton invented charts to identify criminals based on the size of their nose. He is the father of eugenics. If you guys have heard of the term eugenics, Sir Francis Galton invented that. And it says in the book, this is a direct quote from the book, even though my comprehension is only 82nd percentile. They wanted to get rid of people who were outliers to preserve British whiteness. That's a direct quote from the guy that invented the bell curve, you guys. So I want you to understand that if you built a school that, and like the big part of my historical heritage is Swiss, like my dad's Swiss. So imagine that they made a Swiss school for me, Paul, that we had Toblerone chocolate for lunch every day. We had Swiss Miss hot cocoa in the morning. We wore Lederhosen. All the school clocks were cuckoo clocks. It was culturally sensitive to Switzerland. We would sing Edelweiss for the assemblies. It was like Switzerland all the time. No fights because we're neutral, all that stuff. But if you put me on a bell curve, you're still going to have kids you're saying that you're not good for college. So all that work of being culturally sensitive, gone in a hot second. You can't truck kids down to an assembly about being culturally sensitive and then take them back to your class and say 2/3 of you aren't built for college. It's not my job. College will sort them out for me, you guys. In fact, at the high school that I was a leader at, I actually challenged our senior teachers to give all the kids straight A's next year. Just give them straight A's and let's see how college does at sorting them out. That's not my job. Think about that for a second. How many of you made it to college with a 3.0 GPA? Should be impossible, because eugenics dictates that you're not worth it if you have a low grade. So this is the pernicious idea of the bell curve. So what Galton applied to the bell curve was bad and excellent. So Quetelet introduced the idea of average being a norm, okay? And Galton introduced the idea of being good or bad. So follow this if you're a basketball. Paul, are you a basketball guy at all?
I'll say yes.
Okay, I'm going to do a one-man survey. If Steph Curry is 6'2" and LeBron is 6'7", who should win the championship every year when they play?
Statistically, LeBron.
But guess what? That's not how it works. You have to actually put the basket in the hoop under pressure. Sorry, LeBron fans, but you got to win the game. Your height doesn't automatically mean you win the game. And so this idea of an average is very dangerous for classrooms. Now, the next thing they talk about the book is Frederick Taylor. Taylor developed a thing called averagarian, which sounds like Aryan, A-Y-A, but it's not. It's averagarian, like agrarian. And they applied this idea of standardizing the work. So before this, people were craftspeople, which meant Bavini might build an entire wagon from scratch. She knew how to do all the parts. But in the Frederick Taylor world, Bavini, you just do wheels. That's all you do. You don't get to touch the panels. You don't get to do seats, no upholstery, no curtains, just wheels. And under specialization, productivity soared, but guess what we lost? The idea of craftsmanship. And we've now reduced the individual, which is the same thing Gatto's saying that school is preparing kids for. So dig this, you guys. In 1900, only 6% of Americans completed high school. 6%. Factories needed people with at least a high school education. So they introduced this Taylorism specializing idea. And guess what? They got high school graduation rates up to 81%, but these advances demanded conformity and subverted societal respect for individuality. So to be put another way, you go to high school, you get C's, you go to work in the factory, you shut up, you make wheels for a career, and they give you a gold watch at the end. You guys, I don't know if you're aware of this, that world's gone. That worked for about 40 years. That world is not a thing anymore. Okay. So a little bit more from the book. This is the book right here. If you've heard of normed reference testing or criterion reference testing, that's from this book, which was written in 1968. Guess what? In the end of Average, Todd Rose teaches us that the book is actually, in the foreword, says it's flawed. I want you to think about that for a second. In the forward of the book, it says none of this book is valid, and I'll explain that in a second. This guy right here, Molinar, he was 63 years old, and he was supposed to retire as a professor because in Finland, I think it's Finland, only 82nd percentile. So it could be Finland or the Netherlands, I forget. You have to retire at age 65 from being a professor because the average says that you're not as effective once you get to 65. This guy was forced to teach a freshman um, mathematical psychology class. So he reread the book that he hadn't taught in 20 years, and he realized in the forward, Lord and Novick say this book's not valid, and here's why. The only valid intelligence test is when you give the test repeatedly. So to know somebody's true intelligence, you need to test them 8 or 9 times. Sounds like sports, right? To know if your team is good, you can't play one game. You got to play 9 games. But in the forward of the book, they say it is, quote, impractical to test people over and over again. So what we're going to do is test millions of people and average their response. So the whole book is based on that concept. So take the end of average. Here's some takeaways, and I'm moving into the next section. He has 3 main concepts: jaggedness, context, and pathways. So under jaggedness, this is Isaiah Thomas. He was one of the best point guards in NBA history. He became a manager. Guess what he did, you guys? He said, we're going to hire all of the highest scoring players. We're only going to hire players that score high. Guess what happened? He lost 2/3 of his games for the next 3 years. You know why? Nobody wanted to pass. Nobody wanted to play defense. Nobody wanted to be a role player. And everybody wanted to take the shot. They lost 2/3 of their games for the next 4 years. He changed his plan, and now he's famous for being a good coach. If you've seen the movie Moneyball, which is a great movie to watch for a 3-day weekend, same concept. Do you want big stars or people who score? Right? Because the traditional intelligence is we need big stars. But it turns out that you can hire a lot of cheap people and still almost win if you're the Oakland A's. Here's an example of that in school for me. Take a look at this cartoon. Thanks to Sean Zebar for giving it to me. Here is a thing. I love it. So imagine that the thing is your child. Well, let's get rid of the unusual parts. And then pretty soon, that thing is just like all the other things. This is what Gatto's talking about. This is what Todd Rose is talking about. A movie you might want to watch if you don't like reading books. You might want to watch The End of Average this weekend. It'll cost you $3 on Amazon. Mind blowing. It's going to tell you the same exact story I'm telling you from a totally different viewpoint. Okay. So for me, context. So that's me playing football. I was a whopping 5'6" defensive nose guard at Fresno State. 5'6". You guys, the average other defensive linemen were mostly a foot taller than me. But I was in a context that I understood, and I excelled in that context because it was my context. But if you were to judge me by looks, I was supposed to be over with the punters. So the quote in the book is, the context principle lessens your tendency to label others according to how they act in one situation and opens their minds to other aspects. How many of you have kids that are totally silent in class, but are cheerleaders? Literally cheerleaders. How many of you kids have kids that do nothing in class, but spend all weekend racing go-karts or playing paintball or coding or making websites or have a business? But the context of school doesn't draw that out of them. So what's my job as a teacher? To provide a context where they excel. Remember that question. Do they don't get Fs or do they can't get Fs? Next one, the pathways principle. This is another great thing in End of Average. Did you guys know there are 25 different ways for babies to learn to crawl? And Paul, I used to ask this question: when's the last time you saw somebody crawling through Walmart? But I realized it wasn't a super valid question. So I changed it to, how many people have you seen walking like crawling through the mall? So I had to change it a little bit. People learn to crawl. They learn to walk. They do it 25 different ways. There are many, many different pathways. And I'll show you this for an example. Here's the pathway. We are taught by school that if you play by the rules, if you be quiet, if you take AP classes, if you go to a good school, you can work for the factory. It's just that you'll be a manager. How many of you real life feels more like this? This is an intersection in Vietnam. Every day they do this, you guys. This is how they drive in Vietnam. And this is what your career path is like, right? Paul, we're from back east. Did you ever imagine living in Palm Springs? No, but you got a phone call and you're like, hey, here we go. So that's the way life works, you guys. School tries to make us believe that there's this one clear pathway to your career, and there is not. There is not. Okay. So here we go. This is what your career path looks like. Now, this is a little girl that walked into my first classroom ever. Her name is Teresa Ruth. If you'll note carefully, her glasses were taped together. Her shoes every day were jellies. Every day she wore jellies because that's all she had. She lived with her grandparents. How many of you guys have kids that are living with their grandparents? Right? So one day her sped teacher called me and said, what are you doing down there with Teresa? And I was like, I don't know how this phone call is going to go right now. And I said, well, we're just doing our thing, man. And he said, I've never seen a kid grow 2 years and 2 months, and I've been doing this job 20 years. And he said, he asked Teresa, why do you think you're growing so much? And she said, push your glasses up, because I just do what Corippo says. Whatever Corippo says, that's what I do. We had bought into each other. And I'll tell you guys the story about how that partially happened. One day, Teresa, I looked down at her paper. I was walking around in class and she had written, I suck, at least 30 times. At least. I suck. And I said, T-Dog, because that was her nickname. T-Dog, what's up? The kids said I ate a booger. Now, honestly, it's very possible she did. I mean, kids do that sometimes. But I realized in that moment, my job was to change her perspective in our classroom. And so I was panicking. I was a first year teacher. I didn't have a very big toolkit at that time. And I looked up to the class and I looked down at Teresa and I said, you guys have a big announcement. Teresa is going to be the lunch line princess, which means she's going to lunch first every day. Now, if you've taught 4th, 5th, or 6th, that's a big deal. It is a big deal to be guaranteed first in line for lunch. And she looked up at me like, oh my God, this is not making it better, dude. Like, you need to stop. This is not helping. And I waited for the hubbub to die down. And I said, you guys, the lunch princess gets to pick 3 friends every day who get to be in lunch line first with her. And she was immediately the most popular kid in class. I changed the context to fit her situation. Zoom forward 3 months, she grew 2 years. I created a social environment that benefited her. Do you guys see the advantage of thinking that way? And that's the real picture. That's not like I didn't just Google that. I took that picture with an Instamatic 110. Just saying. This kid right here is Chris. Chris was in my class for 4 years. Oh, I'm gonna let Nairi in. Hi, Nairi, welcome. We got a tardy pass for you, and we're just really onto the good part. You're gonna love this. So anyways, Chris was in my video class for 4 years, you guys. He was this guy right here for 4 years. 4 years. He never did any of the projects on time. Everything was a version of like SpongeBob quality film. Like, oh, they were bad, you guys. They were bad. And he's even a family friend. I was like, Chris, oh my God, dude, you're gonna get a D again this year. Guess what happened, you guys? 6 months after he graduated, he calls me on a Saturday morning. He has never called me. Hey, Corippo, I know it's probably not cool, but can I get a copy of Final Cut Pro to put on my personal computer? Final Cut Pro was the video software that we used. I go, sure, why? And he goes, I think I want to make videos. Within 6 months, this guy's getting 1,500 views on Instagram in an hour. He's out interviewing motocrossers. He's making videos for motocrossers. And within 2 years, he is the lead videographer for Thor Motocross. So what's my part in that? 2 things. After 4 years of, I was patient enough that he didn't hate me for being that guy, right? I never took it personally. You guys know what I'm talking about. And then the second part was, I never made him hate the content. He didn't hate video. He just didn't want to do it in my class. Once it was about motocross, he was super excited. And then flash forward, now he's a realtor in the area. Guess who has the best videos and pictures of all the realtors in our area? Yeah, the guy who got 4 years of D's in my class. Everybody calls him for house pictures now. He's making bank because of that. And then this guy right here, this is Aaron. When Aaron came to my class, his cume folder said, Aaron does not meet 8th grade promotion requirements, but we don't want him back. Love the 7th grade. The entire 7th grade sent him to me in 8th grade with that note, you guys. Wow. Aaron would come to school and he would get welts on his arm so big. They were like huge, like fist size welts. Every day he was going home at 10:30, 11 in the morning. It was scary. We didn't know if he was allergic to chalk, allergic to dust, allergic to something on the desk. Yes, I said chalk. We had chalkboards. We didn't know what it was. And then we started making videos, and he decided he was the lead videographer. And one night in November at 6 o'clock, we were working after school, and Aaron goes, "Hey, I've been coming to school every day for like 3 weeks." And I said, "Aaron, I think you were allergic to school before." He had so much stress, he was getting welts. But once we moved to project base, everything changed for him. Here's a great fun ending for Aaron. Guess who was the officiant at his wedding? And I'm not a preacher. He called me 20 years later. He's like, "Hey, Corippo, you wanna be the officiant at a wedding?" And I was like, "But I don't do that." And he goes, "Yeah, but you saved my life, so I thought it would be fitting." That's the way we should impact kids, right? We never talked about his test scores. And then this is one that happened this year, you guys. This is a kid in my class who's big time sped. I can give you at least 3 processing disorders that jump out at you. You know how some of the kids are in sped because their parents are high maintenance? This is not that guy. This guy's legit. He has specific learning needs. The first 8 or 9 weeks of school, we were on remote learning. He literally turned in nothing for 6 weeks, you guys. Like literally nothing. He was that kid. Never turned on his video, never turned on his mic, never talked, never did anything. So I finally got him into a pod, started working with him. When we did our first quarter Latin root cumulative final, we did it in GimKit. He got 122 right and 5 wrong, you guys. Does he look happy? This is what a school is supposed to do. It's supposed to make people better. It's not to enforce or scare them about what is. It's to translate them. His mom even reports at home now that he is actually interacting with his brothers and sisters. And yesterday when we were in class, he was verbalizing and sharing with correct grammar in the chat. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Pretty good. Okay. So here's another way to put it, written by a kindergartner. I like to read. I don't like worksheets. It's nearly perfect phonics. I like to read. I don't like worksheets. So why do we keep giving them worksheets? So let's get on to the EduProtocols part. So let's do some EduProtocols. Now, this is from my friend Kim Vogie. We were talking on the phone and she made this. Over instruction is a compensation for being unsure about pedagogy. How many of you know a teacher that does this? The kids do bad on the test, so they lecture again. The kids are struggling in the class, so the teachers talk more. When you talk more, you're taking time away from kids to work. What's our goal? You work more, you get better. So I'm going to use a sports metaphor. Imagine a coach that talks for half of the practice. Are you getting better at soccer? You are not getting better at soccer. Your coach isn't talking. I mean, you're not practicing, your coach is talking. You've got to be able to have the kids doing more of the work. And what happens with teachers is the worse kids do, the more we talk. I know I've done that before. Okay, I'm going to have to lecture you guys 3 more times until you get it. What if we have better pedagogy right from the beginning? Do you see that little subtle shift right there? Okay, so another little more theory, and then we'll get into some the real EduProtocol stuff. Also in EduProtocols, it's not a remix or a rebuild of your work. It's just changing the order. Okay, so when I was in Catholic school, we start off with direct instruction. I would get a half an hour lecture about fractions or Bunker Hill or whatever we were working on, and then I would do some work. And the work might be answer the questions at the end of the chapter. Here's a worksheet I mimeographed. Here's something from Teachers Pay Teachers. And then, Paul, can you hand in your work before you go to recess? And Paul's like, "Sure, I will. But maybe it'll end up in my backpack and I'll blame you for losing it." And so then I might grade it when I'm certainly not grading Friday's work on a 3-day weekend because I've got stuff to do, right? So the feedback comes later, possibly much later. These are skills that we all know as teachers in our classrooms. Now, here's what we propose in EduProtocols. Just change the timing, you guys. Change the timing. Start with work. Start with work. 1 or 2 questions, 3 questions. I'll show you how to do that in a second. Then we go to feedback. We do feedback. When's the feedback? Right now. Then we give direct instruction. If the kids are mistaken or don't understand an element, I clean that up. And then we do more work immediately. That's the flow right there. Notice that's the same elements. We're just changing the order and the timing. And a good example for this would be the difference between your favorite song by Mozart or Bach, which is sheet music, a piano, and a person playing. Compare that to Benny and the Jets or In the Air Tonight by Phil Collins. It's still a guy and a piano, but the rhythm, the timing, and the intensity are totally changed. Nobody drums along with Mozart. They nod their head. And that's not bad. I'm not down on classical. I'm just saying each genre of those songs has a different audience response. And the audience response I want in my classroom is I'm going to do this and I'm going to do it tomorrow better. I want kids getting those repetitions. A little bit more on the background of the EduProtocol design concept is this. They're frames that you can use daily, weekly, all year long. How many of you have cried because you switched grade levels? Your whole cabinet full of tools is now useless, right? How many have stayed up awake at night going, I've never taught eighth grade. I've never taught eighth grade. What am I going to do? You guys, pedagogy is pedagogy. If I know how to teach vocab, I can teach any vocab. If I know how to teach writing, I can teach any writing. If I know how to teach research, I can teach any research. I just change the content. So the teach better, work less thing works like this. If I'm doing basically the same activity every week, my prep goes down. But what also goes down is the cognitive load for the kids because they know what the work looks like. So imagine if you're a kind of person that works out, if I change your workout routine every day for a year, at what point do you become demoralized because every day you go, I'm not very good at this? That's what school's like for kids. Every day they come in and go, I don't know what we're doing. And I'm pretty sure they're going to tell me I'm wrong for 180 days. That's the John Taylor Gatto piece of wearing people down so that they'll be compliant to just say, you tell me, guy, what am I doing? They're not bringing their own personality to it. So these frames are beneficial to you because you can repeat them with minimum of prep. They're beneficial to kids because they lower cognitive load. Ideally, a protocol will cover 10 or more standards in a setting. I'll show you about that in a second. EduProtocols can be done in less than one class period. If you've got a protocol that's 3 or 4 periods long, that's really PBL. The goal of protocols is to do 2 or 3 an hour, 2 or 3 an hour. So you're getting kids in and out of different packages, metacognitively having them shift, but they're doing 2 or 3 different activities in an hour. One more thing, if you guys, Paul, if you want to put in a link to Parkinson's Law, it's at Wikipedia. This is important. If you give kids 2 hours to do a slide deck, what are the odds they'll be doing it the last 10 minutes after they talk to their friends? Pretty 100%, right? So if you know they're only going to really work for 10 minutes, give them 15 minutes and say, panic now. They won't do a super good job because they only have 15 minutes. But if you do that 3 times a week for 3 weeks, you know what'll happen? Their stuff will be pretty good because you're getting repetitions. Okay. So that lowers cognitive load, that builds success, that builds excitement. Okay. So don't do things that take an hour because most of your kids are going to socialize for 30 to 40 minutes before they really buckle down and go to work. That would have been Paul and I in high school. Hey, Paul, you got any ideas for tri-tip? Yeah, I heard about this Santa Maria thing. Oh, it's time. Oh, we got 10 minutes. Paul, we got to go, dude. Give me some stuff. Maybe copy pasting would work. Like we're just going to start throwing stuff together. So don't give them that time frame. Next thing, and last thing for a lot of my theory stuff here is this is called the forgetting curve. We don't talk about it much in education, but this is super important to me. If this is day 1 of an activity, this is what I'm going to remember 4 days later from doing that activity once. I'm like at 20% retention. But if I do the activity again the next day, now I'm up in the 40% range. If I do the activity the next day, now I'm up in the 30%, 60% range. And if I do that activity for a 4th day, over 4 days, my retention is more like 80 or 90%. This is called the forgetting curve. Feel free to make a new tab and look it up. It's a thing. It's brain science, but we don't talk about it much in education. And I'm not sure why. It doesn't make any sense. This is a super smart thing. The best thing I can think of is kids don't want to do the same worksheet 4 times. Teachers don't want to do the same lecture 4 times. But in marketing and fitness and military training, this is the deal. And so we can access this. Our kids get smarter. In fact, I just thought of something funny, Paul. Let's change this to teacher years. How much better were you in year 4 than you were in year 1? Like my wife's motto is If you really hate year 2, you'll only strongly dislike year 3. And by year 4, you'll be having fun. So this idea of repetitions and being comfortable with the work is super critical. Now I want to give a shout out to my friend, Amanda Sandoval. This is in the slides for you guys. This is Amanda's. I'm going to take you guys through a quick portfolio of EduProtocols. And this is Amanda Sandoval made this. And you guys will get this link. Watch this. I'm just going to flip through a couple of these things. And if you haven't heard of Slides Mania, definitely check out Slides Mania. She used Slides Mania to make these. Here's a quick tour of what EduProtocols, what this can look like just in social studies, because I can easily cross out social studies and make it into math or science or English. So the first one is, let's see what we got here. Come on, computer, load. The first one is thin slides. So if you guys are tired of your kids taking an hour to make slides, here's thin slides. Here's the overview connection from Amanda. You guys look at all these. You can clone, 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 clone. And so they got the classic model, a let's do it model in the context of ancient India. And basically thin slides go like this. If you're old enough or you remember from your teacher training, the KWL chart, put the kids in a circle and ask them what they want to learn. The problem with that is the kids don't know anything. So when you ask fifth graders what they want to learn about volcanoes, they're like, why do they blow up? That's all I got. So in thin slides, you go like this. Everybody makes one slide. Use Google. Tell me what a pyroclastic flow is. Go. Who's doing the work? Not me. What's the planning? Slide deck. Easy, right? It's super easy. I'll put the slides in right now for you guys. Here's the slides for these. These are also in my slide deck. Okay, so thin slides, putting a lot of the work on the kids, but it's also very creative. The cyber sandwich. How many people have heard of think, pair, share? Come on. This has got to be 100%. What's wrong with think, pair, share? I start off by terrifying kids by telling them, if you don't read, I could pull your name off the poker chips. Right. And one time I said to some teachers, what would you do if your admin did that for the admin staff meetings? How would you like that? And one guy who's a lot reminds me of Paul said, oh, my principal did that. He pulled poker chips to make sure we were listening. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. How did you deal with that? And he goes, I distracted him and stole my poker chip. So I'm like, oh, that's exactly what sixth graders would do. So that's a human behavior, not a child behavior. Okay. Cyber sandwich goes like this. 5 slides. 5 slides, one for me, one for Paul. There's a link to anything, you guys. If you look carefully, there's a VR option. Okay. I read, watch, or learn something. I take notes. The notes can be avid. They can be note and notice. They can be key vocabulary, anything you want. Paul's doing the same thing on slide 2. On slide 3, we build a Venn diagram together. Now I swing into action. Bear in mind, everything up to this point has been what I call cold turkey. So I'm not prepping the kids. Watch this video. Tell me what you see. I'm assessing how good they are at summarizing and watching for details. So I like to drop them in the deep end of the pool, except the deep end of the pool in this case is only 4 feet, so they can stand up and still breathe, right? And so then they make their Venn diagram together. At that point, the Socratic seminar happens. I make sure that every team is responsible for sharing something. Paul, what I like to do is 3 categories on this because I like to scaffold it. There's Bazinga, which is what blew your mind. What was your mind-blowing example? There is wall of facts, which is I don't want to make a big stand on what was there, but here's 4 cool facts. And then the last one is light bulb, which is I have a question about what we learned. And I'm going to pop this one open just so you guys can see what it looks like. It's beautiful. It's simple. It's elegant. Now, Amanda goes way over the top on her skill set. This is a triple cyber sandwich. So don't be intimidated because I'll show you some of the ones that I make and they look like 6th graders made them. They're a lot simpler. But Amanda shares her stuff like crazy. She does a hashtag oversharing a lot. So check this out. Partner 1, read this article about insurrection and democracy in Hong Kong right now. Article 2, read this article about insurrection against the British in the Revolutionary War. Article 3, read about Puerto Rico's strive for independence. So you got 3 articles. Kids take notes. Now they do a triple Venn diagram. Student 1, student 2, student 3, things they found in common. And then they elaborate. How can changing ideals lead to protests? So each kid is responsible for reading that part. You guys, simple, elegant. Tomorrow, I could literally change this to famous battle, famous battle, famous battle. I could change this to president, pharaoh, emperor. What's my work time? Like 5 minutes, right? So that's the teaching better. Who's doing most of the work? Not me. Working less, lesson plan takes 5 minutes. And then cognitive load. So I'm not going to go through this whole list of Amanda's, but you can see it's like 17 slides. Number mania's in there. Really, really cool stuff. So big shout out to Amanda. Definitely follow her on the Twitters. She is prolific. So here's a little more EduProtocols, what I call non-negotiables. EduProtocols are built for speed. Do not give kids more time, you guys. That's Parkinson's law. If you say it's 10 minutes, put a YouTube timer on the screen and say it's 10 minutes. And understand that the first couple of reps are going to be kind of crappy, to be honest. Grade with that in mind. Give immediate feedback. They will get better. You have to be patient. Okay. Leave a creativity option. We're looking for divergent. I don't want 30 kids to answer the same thing. If I wanted that, I'd give them a goddamn Scantron and save a couple hours, right? What I want to know is, what do you see that everybody else doesn't? And then we talk about that outlier. It's not a worksheet. I've had several, not a lot, but when I do PD for school districts, there's usually one or two people that go, oh, this is really just better worksheets. No, it is not. These are graphic organizers.
Okay.
Yes, but they're about being far out. Go ahead, Paul. Or was that you? That's okay. You should design things so the grading is easy. I'll show you that in a minute. You should be able to scan the assignments and go, they get it. You should be able to ask everybody a question for 5 seconds and go, they get it. It's built on immediate feedback. You never do an Iron Chef and say, I'll grade it tomorrow. No kids want to look at yesterday's work. They want to know right now. I don't know how to tell you this, but that's how video games work. If you fail the level, they tell you right now and you try again. I'm okay with homework. I'm not okay with stupid homework. So word search, crossword, fill in the blanks, stupid homework. I had my kids watch a TV show this week for their lit circle. They loved it. But guess what I got? They did archetypes on That's So Raven. They did archetypes on Star Trek episode 36. They did Somebody Want a But So Then on a TV show. They found me metaphor, poetic justice, and symbolism in their half-hour TV shows, and they represented it with a GIF or a meme and an explanation. Nobody complained. They were like, hey, this is fun. That's how you shift things, okay? And then we do things over and over again. I've actually had teachers say, oh, I love 8 parts. I did it one time last year and it was great. It's not great until the 7th rep, you guys. You want to do a bunch of reps. You don't want to do things one time, because I'm going to be honest with you guys right now. They're not really good until the 4th or 5th time. And think about it this way. When you cook or bake, the first time you make chocolate chip cookies, are they your best? Never. The first time you make brownies, are they your best? Never. You want to cook brownies 4, 5, 6 times before you're really ready to like take them to the county fair. You don't want to do that on the first try. So give kids that option. Okay, hold on just 1 second. All right, so those are those non-negotiables, you guys. Here's thin slides, a little more visual for you guys. So thin slides. We also have these things we call recipe cards. So these are the non-negotiables for thin slides. It's a web search, that's your input. Quick, 3 minutes to build your slide, maybe 4 or 5 if you're primary, and then 4 seconds to share. So think about this, you guys. In 3 minutes, I've had 30 kids make a slide, and in 2 more minutes, I've had 30 kids share. This is great for ELs. This is great for introverts. This is great for young kids and older kids that have never participated. You don't do direct instruction till after. It's like a scavenger hunt. So you don't spend a half an hour and then do a thin slide. You do the thin slide to set up the lecture. The kids should be putting in a word or a phrase. They should not be putting in a paragraph. You should give them immediate feedback and always coach their slide making skills. If they're putting in jaggedy JPEGs, teach them how to fix it. Do one thing a day. After 2 weeks, it'll be ridiculous how good they are at making slides. You can also use a thin slide as an exit ticket too, because there's almost no prep. So you can say, oh, we just learned about explorers today. Tell me 3 things about explorers. Ready, go. You got 5 minutes. It's really fun and it's really quick. And so here's what it looks like. 1 word or phrase, 1 image, 1 slide, 3 minutes, go. And then I typically give the kids 4 seconds to make a claim or an observation. And what I like about 4 seconds is 2 things. One is, if I've got 30 kids, Paul, I'm not super good at math, but that's 120 seconds. 2 minutes, everybody's presented. They don't get up. They just do it right where they're at or on Zoom. The second piece is, though, they need to make a claim or an observation. I noticed that. I see that. It seems like that. One thing that stands out to me. So I'm teaching to do claims and observation. And here's a fun little wrinkle. Speaking and listening standards are standards. They're not lesser standards. They're standards. But we don't get to them because we tend to do I talk, you shut up, then worksheet. That's called the tell and practice model. When you do the tell and practice model, people are just listening all day. So here's an example of that built out that some teachers did. The question that I asked the teachers in this case was one slide, one picture about foods other people should stop eating. Number one answer was haggis, which is a sheep's bladder stew. You don't want that. Trust me. The next thing was we had squid, veal, asparagus, anchovies, durian, which I don't even know what that is, but that's a little spiky thing. Apparently it stinks like to high heaven. So each one of the people in my fun class with the teachers advocated for a food other people should stop eating. That's another key part to the protocols mindset is that always do the first 2 reps for silly fun. Paul, you've done some EduProtocols. I'm going to stop talking for a second. Can you talk about the idea of doing a couple for silly fun for like, give yourself a minute or two to just like, what's the advantage of doing those first couple reps just for goofiness?
Sure. So the reason why we do it that way is because then the students feel a lot more comfortable doing that. They don't have this huge fear saying, I need to know content plus also the way that this is going on. Find something that the students are comfortable with, go with their background knowledge. They understand how and why those work. So when we do it that way, if we talk about video games and you tell the kids to do this with video games, they already know a million different video games that they can play with. And really what you're trying to do is understand, you're trying to teach them how to do the protocols. You're not trying to teach them content, because when we teach content and protocols at the same time, it definitely it gets mixed and you don't know really where the issue is. You go one step at a time. I always like to reference one of my favorite movies as a child. What About Bob? The old
I love that movie. I
right?
love that movie as a 31-year-old. So for whatever that's worth.
Yeah, I was probably 10 when you were 31, but yeah. The thing is in that movie is that the main mantra of that movie was baby steps, take baby steps. And really that's what you need to do is take the baby steps, go one step at a time. Really what we're trying to do is learn the protocol, then apply the content. What do you think, John? How'd that work?
Well, and that's perfect. And that's why I was doing this, you guys. It's dual coding. You don't want to ask people to learn content plus a task. Does that make sense? You don't learn content plus task. My real life analogy is you don't ever do this. Mom, you've been cooking Thanksgiving dinner for us for 40 years. I'm going to do the whole thing for the first try next year. Bad idea. Very bad. You say, Mom, I'm going to try the mashed potatoes this year. I want to take that off your plate. And then the second year, since you're into legumes and underground vegetables, Mom, I will do potatoes and yams this year. And you build your way up to that. And what we do with kids is we do this. Do a Venn diagram on Othello, go. And they're like, they can't do a Venn diagram. So the Othello Venn diagram is going to be horrific. So give them the time to learn the task. You will make it back later. Trust me. How many of you have heard teachers in the lunchroom in October say, I went too fast. I got to start again. Tell me that you haven't heard people say that. I went too fast. I got to start again. Here's my advice. Don't go too fast. Slow it down, get it right, then go faster. The Navy SEALs, their motto is we're going to teach our recruits how to walk correctly. And then we teach them how to run correctly. And then every day we run a little faster. Adopt that for your classroom. I'm going to teach them how to do this correctly. It might take 2 weeks to get it right. But once I do, I've got a base. And once the base is right, I can grow and grow and grow on that. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, thank you, Paul, for jumping in, is sketch and tell. Sketch and tell is the opposite. So in thin slides, we're literally put on our pirate hats and we're rating Google images. We don't care where they came from. Here's 34 pictures on parallel or complementary angles or pyroclastic flows or SpaceX, whatever it is, right? In sketch and tell, the kids draw and write their learning. they draw and write. So here's what a lot of teachers don't realize. In your Google Slides, you've got this scribble tool. So kids can do diagrams. Oh, it just disappeared on me. That was interesting. Kids can draw diagrams using the scribble tool. They can draw wiggly lines. They can do all kinds of things. And then there are all these shapes, you guys. Look at all the shapes. Lightning bolts, suns. So you don't have to actually be able to draw to do a sketch and tell. So here's an example from my friend Adam Moeller. It's A Moeller 3031 is his Twitter handle. And look at what his kids did right here. Check this out. This kid modeled the structure of the ancient Roman government. What are the odds that he'll remember this? I'm going to go with pretty good, right? He built this using those shapes. And then over here, he typed it. And this is why I like this so much better than a think, pair, share. Because a lot of times at the end of a think, pair, share, all we've done is what? Talk. We haven't built anything. I say, John and Paul, would you discuss the importance of using proper nouns correctly? You have 3 minutes. John and Paul are going to talk about barbecue for 2.5 minutes. And then Corippo's going to go, hey, 30 seconds. And then John's going to look over at Paul and go, dude, we need something. And then we're going to hope that Christia or Christina's give a good answer, because then teacher goes, well, that was pretty good. Let's wrap it up. So everybody doesn't answer. There's no academic work. Nobody typed. All we did was talk and then move along. And that could have easily been a 12 or 15-minute activity. So sketch and tell is really simple. In fact, if you're super creative, Adam did this. He bought his kids gummy bears. Even on a teacher salary, gummy bears, pretty affordable. And this is a sketch and tell on the vocab word, popular sovereignty. And if you look very carefully here, this kid has modeled all the gummy bears holding up the one gummy bear. I'm going to go with the idea that this kid not only gets popular sovereignty, I'm going to go with the idea that this kid gets metaphors, right? They're modeling what it looks like. So there's the recipe card for sketch and tell. One source, it can be a video, a book, an actual paper book, a textbook online, a YouTube video, anything you want. Each kid makes one slide. They explain by drawing and they explain by writing. Now, when we're face-to-face, we can do gallery walks. And if you guys have seen like inner ring, outer ring, so the inner ring of kids has their Chromebook holding it up. The outer ring is doing like almost like they're going one kid per session. You go about 4 rotations. Now kids get to see 4 different takes on popular sovereignty or how the Roman government's made. Then we switch inner ring and outer ring switch presenting. Lots of talking going on, but it's academically focused because I'm only giving them 10 seconds to share their work with the other kids. What's my prep time for this, Paul? Do nothing. I just need to watch the article, sketch and tell, go. What's my correcting time? Nearly none, because I'm watching them do it in real time. Here's Stacy Young. If you like Amanda Sandoval and you haven't heard of Stacy Young, they're like 2 peas in a pod, at Stacy Young. What Stacy did on this is in Pear Deck, and I'm going to show you guys this in Nearpod here in a little bit too. Stacy had her kids read an article in Pear Deck. She had her kids watch a little video in Pear Deck, and then they all modeled what they had just learned. You guys, you're experienced teachers. How long does it take me to correct this, Paul?
You just look at it and you can see right there.
You can see right away, although I love this bit. I don't know what's going on with this dude right here. Doesn't mean it's wrong. I just don't know what that is with the spiky hair. So I might ask that kid a question. I can quickly
Well, what about this one?
Yeah, there's another one. I'm like, I not saying it's wrong, but I don't understand it yet. Tell me what it is, right? So I can very quickly correct these and flip through them, especially if I have each kid share 5 seconds on a summary of what they shared. Really fast, really creative. Look how much drawing skills the kids are using, right? So they're thinking spatially. And what's my prep time? I need 2 links, drop it into Pear Deck. I'm gone. So in Nearpod, I would use the Draw It tool for that. And I'm going to show you guys that. We're going to do a little live Nearpod in a second. Now here's Cyber Sandwich I talked a little bit about earlier. The input can be textbooks, video, URLs. I literally had a teacher friend of mine who's been teaching so long, she's got the current textbook and the old textbook, Paul. So she's got 2 history textbooks for each kid. One kid was cyber sandwiching the current textbook and one kid was cyber sandwiching the old textbook. Oh my gosh, that's the best ever. She called it upcycling because they were using the old textbooks. The kids are perfectly silent until the Venn diagram. Never say Venn diagram. I don't know why, but when you say Venn diagram, the kids freak out. So don't say it's just say the comparing slide. I have a teacher friend in Arcadia. Her kids call it the cheesy slide because it's in the middle. You don't do any really direct instruction until the Venn. You have a note-taking format. Now, your note-taking format, like I said earlier, it can be Avid, which is I think the Wicker format. You can be Note and Wonder, Note and Notice. You can any format you want. Sometimes I do 2 key vocab words, a proper noun, and a citation. Right? What's a quote? So that format can be anything you want. You scaffold their group responses. So, like I said earlier, you can go Bazinga, Wallow Facts, or Big Idea, Big Question, and you do it 2 or 3 times a week. So what I'll do, Paul, our kids, our school, we have a subscription to something called Kids Discovery. And so I'll send kids to Kids Discovery, read the article about early man, pick a partner, do a cyber sandwich. It's due tomorrow by 11 in the morning. Remote teaching, super easy. And then we walk through it. So here's the recipe card, 1 source, 5 slides, 2 students, Venn diagram, and then you wrap it up by writing a little paragraph about what you learned today. So basically, they're practicing writing a research report, but it's very self-contained. 1 article, 5 facts, 1 paragraph. Guess what happens when we go to write research reports, Paul? All I got to do is scale that process up. It's the same thing, just bigger. Okay. And then here's what one looks like in real life. If you guys want that link, I'll put the link in the chat for you guys. This is one I made about Jack in the Box used to have a boy band in the 90s. Paul, you might not even have been alive then. They were called the Meaty Cheesy Boys. So this is a fun activity that we'll do with kids to do their first cyber sandwich. So they put their partner names in. Student 1, open the document, put in a few facts. Student 2, all I got to do is change the link. Things student 1 found, things student 2 found, things they both found. Student 1, write a paragraph at the end. Student 2, write a paragraph at the end. Boom, done. Tomorrow, all I've got to do is switch that to Hammurabi or Ziggurat or Fertile Crescent, off to the races. Once they know how to do the game, I just change the content. So I can slide right through the year. Here's another one for you guys. I made on buckyballs, just because I thought it would be fun to teach 6th graders what buckyballs were, because they don't know. So, but the kids know what those little magnets are, right? So high interest, low affective filter for the content. So there's another freebie for you. Okay, Iron Chef. This was about the 3rd official protocol. Iron Chef is basically, how many people have heard of a jigsaw? I'm a graduate of National University, so every Wednesday night we did a jigsaw while the teacher graded papers right in front of us. So think jigsaw, except the shift is every kid gets their own slide. So Paul gets a slide, Christina gets a slide, Christy gets a slide, Maureen gets a slide. 10 minutes, not 11, certainly not 20. If you let the kids have more time the first time, they'll want more time every time. Don't. Let the first 2 or 3 be crappy, but make them be beholden to the time. Okay. There's a gradual skill increase. How many kids, a lot of teachers, their kids might present 3 or 4 times a year. Would you guys agree? 3 or 4 presentations a year, pretty normal. My kids present 7 times a week. When you want to do presentations in in April, my kids will eat yours alive. Not because I'm a better teacher. My kids have 200 reps in and your kids have 3 reps in. That's all. I'm winning on volume, you guys. And guess what I never do anymore, Paul? I used to do this. I did this twice and then I quit. 3 days of ancient Greek PowerPoints. No. Oh no. Life is too short for that. 3 days of ancient Rome PowerPoints. Oh no. We are not going to do that. So what we do is lots of short ones. And so the main idea is it's kind of a Freire model. If you guys are familiar with a Freire, but one kid does each quadrant. So one kid's summarizing, one kid's sharing key qualities, one kid sharing examples, one kid sharing non-examples. This is another huge time saver under Teach Better and Work Less. If I give 12-year-old Paul Gordon a Freire, Paul Gordon is going to want 40 minutes to do that. Tell me I'm not wrong. But if I give Paul 1/4 of a Freire, he gets 10 minutes, which means the assignment is done for the whole class in 10 minutes. And Paul's going to hear the other 3 quadrants 4 or 5 times. That's the essence of an Iron Chef. Okay. And this replaces note taking because they are making their own notes. And if you think of Marzano, one of the top skills is note taking, but note taking in Marzano's study is not copying down crap I write on the board. That is subjugation. That's not note taking. In note taking, you're creating your own sense of the content. You're not just copying. That's dictation, you guys. Dictation doesn't raise scores. Kids being able to look at a document or watch a video and tell me accurately what's really there, that is note taking. Okay, so here's the lesson, the recipe card on this one, and it looks like this. You take one source. Kids are going to give me facts and images, one slide each, 10 minutes. Groups of about 5. I find that bigger than 5 gets unwieldy. 5 is pretty good. Most of you have 30 kids in a class. That means 6 groups. Each group gets a maximum of 2 minutes to present. So 5 people present in 2 minutes. You guys, plenty of time. Plenty of time. That's enough time. They don't need 7 minutes. So that means that 10 minutes, using my visuals, 10 minutes, everybody's made a slide. 5 groups times 2 minutes is 10 more minutes. You guys, 20 minutes in. 20 minutes in. Project's done. Do that twice a week all year. Your kids will present 70 times this year. Your kids will be more articulate. They'll be able to adjust on the fly. They'll be able to build better slides, and their reading comprehension gets better. This is from, these are some links. These are live links when you get the slides from me, you guys. These are live links to Scott Petrie stuff. Scott Petrie teaches AP history at a medical magnet high school. Okay. Scott used to do this, you guys. Scott used to lecture all the 20 characters of the Cuban Missile Crisis. You know what he does now? Every person gets a character. Go. They basically make baseball cards. What's his prep time, Paul? Nothing-ish. Who's doing most of the work, Paul? Not Scott. So there's some really great examples in here about how Scott is making the kids do most of the work with this concept. Now I'm going to have you guys do one in a few minutes. And here's some examples of what some teachers made. You're going to do a practice Iron Chef, and it's the first classroom tech edition, Paul. What's the first classroom tech? And this teacher's first classroom tech was a mimeograph. And what they're going to add is a picture of a mimeograph, 3 facts, and then down here is the secret ingredient. The secret ingredient is what's your next drool-worthy technology. This person wants an Apple iPad Pro with Apple Pencil. Oh, I'm going to let Jennifer in. Okay, next one for the example. Classroom Tech Edition, graphing calculator, 3 facts. What's their next drool one for Marco? Marco wants Zoom with Desmos. So that is drool worthy. Here's the next one. Overhead projector. That's going to be one for a lot of us, was their first classroom tech. 3 facts. They threw in the markers because they were talking about how jealous they were at losing them. And now their drool worthy is a Yeti mic. So in just a minute, we'll be doing some Iron Chef. And here's a template for you guys. And so what I do with kids on this, the variation for kids is really simple. Your first phone. And if you don't have a phone yet, what's one you want? Simple. So they don't, to Paul's point, they don't have to do research to be able to do the activity. Oh my gosh, I got like 75 slides to go. All right, so let me flip through the rest of these a little faster. Here's some more because you guys are good readers. You can figure it out later. So here's a nice little video from Scott about tips for remixing protocols. You can take a little Frayer and a little Iron Chef and a little thin slides, make your own. It's like cookies. Why did we have to wait so long to know that we could have white chocolate macadamia chip cookies, right? Like it took 30 years for that. So remixing is a super powerful tool. Here's another one that I would like to show you guys called the mini report. Kim Vogie's kids have renamed it Report That Don't Hurt. I love that title as a former 5th grader, Report That Don't Hurt. And instead of doing 1 skill in a period, we're going to do 6 skills in a period. And so basically it's got researching, summarizing, presenting, adapting, producing, technical skills, time management, all that in one thing. And so what we do is we have the kids in quarter 1, here's the progression between quarter 1 and quarter 4, but I'm going to speed up here a little bit. You guys can look these up later, but the bottom line on a mini report is I give the kids a subject. Here's our little graphic organizer. The big key on this is teaching them what a thesis or controlling main idea is. And then see those focus areas. So Paul, we'll do these on presidents. So like early years up until he's 15, early adulthood, military or political career, presidency, and then legacy. So we've got like 5 or 6 bubbles. And so I have kids read 2 different articles, and this is the key, 2 different articles about one thing. And then they put their facts in there. We do that as a whole group. Ooh, I'll put that URL in there too if you want the blank. There's the blank for you guys. And so I model that once a week. My kids are going to do this process 15 to 20 times a year. And so this is what Adam Moeller's doing with mini report. Notice how one of his mini report options, they did it as a Pixton, you guys. Mini report as a Pixton. And then over here, Adam did this as an infographic for each subject. So they needed to think visually in the noun project. Guess how many paragraphs this kid wrote? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 paragraphs, 1 class. Who's winning? I am. Because the kid didn't see a 6-paragraph essay. The kid saw 6 paragraphs. So again, when I share these slides, you guys will be able to get these from the kids. And then guess what? It also translates very nicely to just writing a good old report, because the sub skills lead to the macro skills, right? If I can write a paragraph really well, I can write 2 paragraphs well. If I can write 2 well, oh my gosh, the sky's the limit. So these are just really great examples of mini report that Adam has done with his kids. And then there's 2 examples of a Madame Curie research element. I have the kids read 2 articles about the same thing, because that's not what they're used to doing. We used to give them 1 article to do research on, so I make them do 2. And here's your visual. 2 sources, rain guttered together, 1 report, once a week, 25 times a year. And at first we start with just the note taking. And now I'm wrapping up here, you guys. I'm wrapping up with the last ones, and then we'll get into doing some of these hands-on. Time for granddad. So this was the original protocol from 1999 that I dreamed up at the Town and Country Hotel in San Diego, California, at the California League of Schools. At 2 a.m, I sat up and went, I know what I'm going to do next week. And it's still working, and people still love it. So this is called 8 parts. So here's the big idea. Don't do 1 part of speech a week. Do all 8 every week. Don't do 1 a week. Do all 8 part. Remember the forgetting curve, you guys? Let's say we do nouns for a week and Christina Alani gets an A. Well, next week we're doing verbs, and let's say she gets an A. And the next week we're doing adjectives, and she gets an A. She only has so much short-term memory. So she's overwriting this week. She's overwriting 3 weeks ago. So there's this trailing effect when I'm constantly overwriting the old information. If I teach you all 8 parts of speech at once, you see them as a singular thing memory-wise. Does that make sense? There's also brain research that says if you're laughing or crying, your brain releases dopamine, and it tags that as what's called a memory. So if you do things that are fun, you remember them. If you do things that are sad, you remember them. When you're bored, you don't remember that. What happens when I'm lecturing Paul? He's bored, so he doesn't remember. So this is basically what I do. I find funny pictures like this. The title is Never Leave Jam Unattended. This kid got to the jam, and then he got a little bit of a monkey puzzle at the end because he couldn't get his hand out of the jar, fell asleep on a sugar rush. So I take a picture like this, and I give the kids a graphic organizer that looks like this. Give me 3 verbs, give me 3 nouns, give me 3 adjectives, give me 3 prepositions. To Paul's point earlier about prep, for the first 2 or 3 days, I give the kids the answers. Their job is to simply write down the correct answers, right? And then at the end, they write a paragraph. This is that cohesion piece I'm talking about. We do this every day for about 3 to 4 weeks until everybody passes. That's mastery teaching. Okay, so, and then there's been variations of this. Here's a neat variation here. I've been doing this one, and you guys may not have seen this one because I'm only kind of using it privately. This is story parts instead of 8 parts. We've got character 1, character 2, the antagonist, the protagonist. How does the protagonist contribute to the central idea? What does the protagonist learn, or how do they change? Lots of really good content. Normally, this might have been 6 or 7 different lessons, but it's all packed into one thing. And you guys will love this. For remote learning, I send kids Geico commercials. Progressive, flow from Progressive. And they analyze the problem in a TV commercial. Why? 30 seconds. They don't need to be able to read. We do this with reading, but they don't have to be able to read to practice. And so if kids only need to do something for 30 seconds, what's their amount of pushback on a project that takes 30 seconds? It's a lot lower. Can't do the work, don't do the work, right? So you got to be pretty lazy to not watch a funny commercial. And then I give the kids a ton of feedback. This person modified this into a CNN 10. So if you use CNN 10, they watch the CNN 10 activity and then they summarize it. They do the stories of the week. They reflect. They do nouns, adjectives, and verbs. Pretty slick. But it's the idea of doing multiple things over and over again and getting better and better at it. And then one of my history teacher friends, Chris Flores, he took this and made it into a DBQ. And so what you do is you do the same activities, which I know those are probably really too small for you guys. Let me zoom those up a little bit. So basically what they do every day is the same activity. We just change the picture. And this picture doesn't work on kids because they have no idea who those two people are. But who do they look like to you, Paul and Christina?
Is that Marilyn Monroe and Joe DiMaggio?
Yeah, I
How
was like,
about
I think I'm,
how about JFK?
That
oh,
one too.
maybe. Yeah.
He was married.
Allegedly.
So I start off with fake pictures like this. And then the kids write a 3-word summary. They give evidence and details. Obviously, I wouldn't use this picture on kids because you guys didn't even know who John F. Kennedy was. That's funny. I was kidding. But you can put pictures and have kids analyze the pictures. And so they're looking at historical context. Is there a bias? What's your claim? What's your evidence? And again, using the same activity over and over again, all we do is just change it to, and each, if you want, I can send you guys original templates on these screenshots too, so you can just email me later. But here's the deal: low prep, high interest. Low prep, high interest, and lots of reps so that we're getting better and better. And then here's one last variation. This person did it. This is Kim Vogie. She's done these on Rocket Books. Let's talk about equity. Not everybody has good internet. Could I get an amen? Not everybody has good internet. What if I send kids these and they can do them on paper and scan them in with their phone? They're doing the exact same activities as the kids who do have internet. So these are actually Rocket Books that Kim Vogie made. Here's another one. Write a paragraph. Frere model as a Rocket book. Sketch and Tell as a Rocket book. You can totally do it on pen. Totally still works. You don't have the internet? No problem. Do 5 Rocket books this week. And then simply have your mom upload them when she has a chance at Walmart or McDonald's or wherever you get free on internet. Good. Shannon, great question. Yes. Oh my gosh. There's this lady who's a teacher named Jennifer Dean. She happens to know a bunch of these 4K. Jennifer, you want to take the mic for a second while I'm shifting gears? If she's here.
Yes, I'm here. Sorry.
Okay, good. That's okay.
Yeah, I do have a whole bunch. I mostly do them on Seesaw when we're doing virtual learning, but in person we do them a lot on Google also. But I do have a whole bunch of resources I can share for some K2 EduProtocols, especially with 8 parts and Fast and Curious. Those are my main ones that I do a lot of.
You should try some thin slides too.
Yes, I do need to start working on that. This was my last year. I just started using EduProtocols at the end of the year. So this has been my year that I've really been like gung-ho about them. And my kids actually asked me for the 8 parts of EduProtocols, the speech. They asked me to assign.
Yeah, so dig that. That's a phenomenon that we see a lot where kids are like, hey, what do you got for this? So Shannon, to give you an example, I'm going to show you some in a minute too. What we do in protocols, if it's for K or K1, we just lower things down. So Cyber Sandwich, and this is at the website, Shannon, instead of Cyber Sandwich, it's called PB&J. And the teacher models and reads the stories to the kids, and then they come up with 1 or 2 questions with their partners. So it's less type heavy, if that makes sense. I showed you 8 parts. Some of my favorite primary friends like Jennifer and Megan Cannon and Corey Orlando, they turned 8 parts into little parts. And so they give them a picture and they just do nouns and verbs. So what you do is just kind of lop off content until it's a cognitively fair load for the kids. So you guys jump into Nearpod. I'm going to show you how cool Nearpod is if you haven't used Nearpod before. Oops, I'll put the code back up. And I'm going to put the link in the chat here. We're going to do 4 protocols right now. And here's what I love about Nearpod in a distance learning setting, if that's what you're doing. You guys, imagine if all your work was one place. Now, Jennifer does a great job with Seesaw. And Jennifer, you tell me if I'm wrong. I think Seesaw could theoretically work for all grades, but it's built, its strength is for two things. It's super strong for like K3, K4. But the other thing is it's a lot of independent work. And so when I want the kids to work together, I need a platform for that. Would you generally agree with those, Jennifer?
Yeah, Seesaw is easy to work together in the classroom, but it's hard to work together out, like in the distance learning model. So
it's great for
it's
primary though, where kids, parents can video their kids saying their spelling words, or parents can take a picture of kids drawing. So that part's really cool.
It has everything built into one, so they can do everything. They can add video on top of a slide. They can do lots of cool stuff, but it is hard to collaborate in the distance learning model. In person, it's a lot easier because you can tag multiple people like you can in Google. But yeah, it's harder to do the collaboration stuff on that.
And then back to Anne's question, I had showed it there for a second. A Rocket Book is basically a thing that is a graphic organizer that has a QR code and a little grid. And so you can take a picture with your phone as long as it's drawn on that grid. Imagine kids' assignments going straight to a Google folder and being editable from paper. So that's why Rocket Books are cool. Now you can buy a Rocket Book, but you can also just use the blank templates and print them out. So like Christia, let's say you're in a part of Nevada where all of your kids are good except 4. Normally this is a nightmare because I'm having to make sure that the 26 are doing work that the 4 can do, right? But with EduProtocols, I can just say, okay, kids without internet, I need 4 sketch and tells, I need 4 8 parts, I need 4 math reps. Here's your printed Rocket Books. You can pick them up once a week. And when you go to grade, everybody's doing the same work. It's just that some people are doing them with pen. So that's the beauty of Rocket Books. And if you guys need those links, if those are interesting, let me know. Okay, just for time purposes, and for you, Christina and Paul and Jennifer, I'm planning on spending about 14-ish minutes on this. So this will just about wrap us up, you guys. So the code's in the corner. You can get it from Paul. I see I've got 17 people in my online classroom. So here's what I like about Nearpod. I can pump 5, 6, 7, 8 protocols into a single Nearpod, you guys. Which means tomorrow, I just copy today's Nearpod. Teach better, work less. What's my planning time if I'm just copying yesterday? Right. The other thing that's neat about Nearpod is at the end of the day, I get a report with everything. So let me show you guys the kind of stuff I do with my kids. We're going to do some syllabication right now. So if you look on your screen, you have a little drawing tool at the bottom. I want you to syllabicate those Japanese foods. I love doing syllabication with restaurant items because it's high interest for 6th graders. But if you look at my screen separate than your screen, I can see what everybody's doing in real time. Can you think of the potential of this for math instruction? This is better than classroom. And remember, you don't need to syllabicate everyone for my example today. And what you want to do is put a little slash or a dot. Yep, there you go. Cindy, you're doing great. Remember, in English, every syllable has at least one vowel sound. Sometimes the vowels work together in their blends. I'm doing this with my 6th graders, Paul, because my 6th graders are horrible at pronouncing words over 4 syllables. Can I get an amen? That's because a lot of those kids are super smart and they're faked their way through their 3rd grade assessments. And when you hit 6th grade and you start learning about things that are more complex in your math and science, you can't fake it anymore. So this is what I'm doing with my kids to rehab them. Look at my screen, you guys, real quickly. How quickly can I see how we're doing? And then what's our lesson for tomorrow? I'm just going to take out Japanese words and I'm going to put in Czechoslovakian menu items or Indian menu items. And I always want to use words they've never seen before because that gives me scientifically a very even platform to play on, right? So I don't know that some kids are super smart or not. So let's see how Doris is doing. And I can hit the share button so you guys can all see Doris's work real quick. Yakitori, love it. Onigiri, love it. Edamame, love it. Chawanmushi. That was my favorite one because my school district is Chawanaki. I had no idea there was a sushi called Chawanmushi. I had no idea. And if I said it wrong, just roll with me. And then Matsunabe. So this is the kind of stuff I'm doing with my kids every day, just as a warm up, you guys. What's my grading time? Almost nothing. And here's why I like Nearpod better than Pear Deck, even though I like Pear Deck. I could have made this an answer where you guys say your answer. And I love it when I make them say the answer. So we're moving on to the next activity now. Okay, now we're going to do a thin slide, which in Nearpod is called a collaborate board. So I want you guys to watch my screen first. Where is your first post-COVID vacation going to be? And based on the rate of vaccination right now, we have about 1.5 years to plan. So we got plenty of time. So you can type in your answer, and then if you click on the little picture, you can actually put animated GIFs. And Cancun was my last vacation before COVID. So I'm thinking of like yeah, there we go. So I'm going to put an animated GIF in for mine, and then I'm going to post it. So I want you guys to put in a picture and your next vacation when COVID ends. Now, if you look at my screen, there's this little orange dot right here. I can pre-approve Ireland, excellent choice. Nietzsche, Napa, Talia, Italy, Nick, Cape Cod, Paul. I don't know what Paul is. I only see the picture, not the word. Where are you going, Paul?
We go into the brewery.
Oh, good enough. It just any brewery. You got a low bar there, dude. Christina's going to, we got Vail, Colorado. We've got the beach. We've got Disney World. We've got Hawaii. We've got, so notice what's going on here is who's participating, you guys. If there's 20 kids in my class, I want 20 answers. Rome, Greece, Grand Cayman. Good call on Grand Cayman. Now watch this. I can now sort these answers by student name. I can sort these answer by time, who put it in first. I can put these answer by likes. So I want you guys to look through and consider everybody's options and start liking ones that you would aspire to as well. And don't worry about the budget. It's on me. I'm paying. So now I've got them in order by likes, and it looks like Napa is super popular. I told you guys to not think about the price. Like, I like Napa, but it ain't Greece, you guys. Dream big. Dream big. So this is the idea of thin slides, though, Paul, in Nearpod. One picture, one word. How long did this take? Several of you may never even have used Nearpod before, and like, oh, I got this. I now have a Yosemite. Now, word on the street is I have an Airbnb at my house. Anybody that wants to come to Yosemite, you get to stay at my house for free. That's the deal. So just DM me. I'll give you my email later. I will take you on a 4-wheel drive tour, cook barbecue for you, and we can go out drinking. All right, so I'm going to do a recap and move on to our next activity. You guys, question for the group. How would this look? Ask question. Paul, do it for me. Parallel. Do one more entry, Paul. Parallel. Christia, do complementary angles. Do the same exact activity, but do parallel and complementary angles. And I'm going to show you what this looks like academically. Same exact activity, one word, parallel, or 2 words, complementary angles, add a picture. This is how I introduce new content to kids in Nearpod. Paul, guess what? Nobody can mess with anybody other's slides, right? There's nobody to mess with slides. All I've got to do
my
is,
slide.
yeah, who deleted my slide? That's over. That's not a thing. Look at Christia's got complementary angles. Christia, tell me one thing that you notice about complementary angles. Make sure you unmute too.
The two complementary, oops.
You got it.
The complementary angles I chose add up to 90.
90 degrees. Now, if Paul was doing this, I could say, Paul, do yours also add up to 90? So instruction is that simple, you guys. Don't do a lecture. Have the kids use the internet to tell you what they find. And then if they don't have it right, clean it up. Just takes a minute. Paul's yours almost in? It's okay if it's not. All right, I'm gonna pass you by, Paul.
It's in.
No, it's in. Okay, here we go. Oh, look at Guadalajara. Good choice. There's Paul's complementary angle. Landon does unrequested participation, and Landon says the lines on a football field are parallel. You guys, kids can do the same thing, right? Kids can do the same thing. So that is thin slides in an Nearpod. So we've already kind of done 2 protocols. Here comes our next one. Okay. Now we're going to Iron Chef your first classroom technology. So put a picture of your first classroom technology And then you can just type, what's your next drool-worthy technology, and give me 1 or 2 facts. You guys, you don't worry about going super crazy. I just want to give you an idea of what an Iron Chef looks and feels like as a participant, and how we can do this in Google Slides and Nearpod. Fun fact, about 2 years ago, they changed it. So I actually make my Nearpod slides in Google Slides. And then I just add the overlay called Draw It to Google Slides. That's my prep time, you guys. Super fast. Oh, yeah, there we go. Mario's already showing up with the overhead. Okay. Good job, Mario. Again, you guys, look at, we're not in the same room. We're hundreds of miles apart. We got a person from Connecticut in here. No, Nick, did you really have that, or was that your drool worthy? You really had that? That's awesome. It looks like
Yes,
Lisa.
I really had that. Probably cost the school an arm and a leg.
Oh, those things were like 12 grand, dude.
Yeah.
Nicely done, Nick. All right, so add 1 or 2. Well, you've got your facts already, so add your secret ingredient. Let's look at this as a comparison on our timeline. What's the next thing Nick wants? Yep, there. Oh, yeah. Okay, so we've gone from overhead to roll around interactive whiteboard. Nice, Nietzsche. Oh, yeah, look at that. First classroom tech was a projector, Landon. Very nice. And now he's like, oh, I want that touchscreen LCD. I will tell you guys, I'm not a super big fan of interactive whiteboards, but LCDs are so much better than projectors. Why? The speakers are built in. I don't even have crappy cords hanging everywhere. Number 2, they're bright. I can teach with the lights on. What? And if you don't buy the interactive ones, you know, you guys can get like a 55-inch screen for like $400 now. It's ridiculous. And I will take 4 55-inch TVs over 170 every day of the week. And if you think I'm wrong, think about Applebee's. Where are those screens, baby? They're everywhere, everywhere. So look at how nice this is filling in, you guys. Who's doing most of the work? Again, not me. Kim, floppy disks. If you tell kids there used to be a thing that held 2 songs and we were happy about it, they won't believe you. Does anybody remember having to load up Word? 1 disk, 2 disk, 2 disk, 3 disk, 4 disk, 5. Word took like 6 disks to load. Remember those days? Oh my gosh. So again, you guys, here's collaborative learning. You're able to see what other kids are doing. I'm not doing most of the work. Okay. Oh yeah, here we go. Good mimeograph. Here we go. Mimeograph. Very nice, Shannon.
Yeah, I just don't understand how to participate on my phone.
Oh, it's really hard on a phone. Don't feel bad. It's all good. If you got that picture in, you're rolling. This is really optimized for either an iPad or a Chromebook. It's just so small on a phone. I suppose you could do it, but it's pretty tricky. Okay, so do you guys see the concept here on Iron Chef though? So all I would have to do is switch this to George Washington. I want a primary source. I want 3 facts about George Washington. And today's secret ingredient was, who's the second president? Or if you want to have some fun, a George Washington joke, GIF, or meme. So they're doing most of the work. How long do you guys think it takes me to design this slide? This is literally like 22 seconds. All I'm going to do for Wednesday is change the question. The work looks exactly the same. So that's one of the reasons that if I'm teaching remotely with kids, Nearpod really is awesome. Okay, I'm going to move on. Is that one of those little typing things? What do they call those? Remember the little things that all they could do was type, you guys? Not smartboard. Oh my gosh, Paul, you'd have loved it. Like literally all it could do was type. No internet. Yeah, it was just strictly a word processor. It was hilarious. We thought it was the coolest thing ever. Okay, next activity. We're now on our 3rd EduProtocol. For my primary people, this is what Amanda Sandoval, who teaches 11th grade, built for her child, who is a 1st grader. And so today's number is what, Paul? So in the first activity, you guys, you can use the pen tool to mark in 8. Use the pen tool to mark in 8. This is called a math rep. These are called math reps. And so here's the beauty of math reps for primary. And Jen, I'll bet you use some math reps, right? If you didn't, I'm going to blow your mind right now. The only thing that changes every day.
Math reps with Fast and Curious.
Yeah, boom, boom, right? So Fast and Curious is how you do your math facts and your math concepts. Math reps is how you do your math content. Look at this. We got different styles, different colors, As long as they're all 8. How long is it going to take me to correct this, you guys? Like literally almost in real time. I can see how everybody's doing. And look at Anne's using X's. Very nice, Anne. And then Silva started using dots, but then started using circles. And if I'm teaching kindergarten, back to the kindergarten person, I could say, today I want you to make blue X's. Tomorrow I want you to make orange triangles. You can work in 3 or 4 standards just in this nice little activity. So I'm going on because this isn't the best one. So our number is still 8. Now we're going to do a number bond. So you need to pick 2 numbers that equal 8. 8 goes in the big circle and the other 2 numbers go in the little circle. And Paul, you can't use 0. I know what you did yesterday. That was too easy. You need to use bigger numbers, Paul. So imagine extrapolating this up to this math rep concept, you guys, goes all the way. It goes all the way through trig. And Paul, to your question, this is funny. I'm doing a little inception right now. These are Pear Deck slides that I put into a Google slide deck that I'm now using in Nearpod, because in Nearpod, anything can be a draw it slide. That was my only prep. I need the background. I need the number of the day, draw it, done, super fast. I will tell you guys, this activity deck that I made today that you're doing right now, and there's one more activity. I made this in 9 minutes yesterday. Guess what we will do tomorrow? Same thing. What's my prep time? Even less. So, oh, look at this. Niche, way to show off. 3.9, 4.1. Let's talk about decimals, you guys. Look at, I love the bold font there, JC. Very nicely done. And using an array to get it done. Super sexy. So again, you guys can see how this is very accessible for a lot of kids style-wise. And then this is my favorite one, which is plus 10, minus 10, plus 1, minus 1. I would be so much better at math if I would have done it this way growing up. And what I do with my 6th graders is, watch this, because we're getting ready to do decimals, plus 1.4, minus 1.4, plus 10.3, minus 10.3. So we're doing the same exact activity in 6th grade daily. It's about 5 minutes, but I make sure that their number sense is good and I'm folding in decimals. Again, prep time for tomorrow is 0. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to have different numbers. And look, so Nietzsche's off the reservation again. Number's 8, Nietzsche, but I see your math is correct, so I'm going to give you credit for today. So that's okay. And that's the way I like to teach you guys. If the kid's getting it right, do I really care if they have the number wrong? No, that's okay. I'm going to coach them to get back in the lane. Like, look, Anne is super advanced here. Like, Anne's using 2 digits. Like, it's crazy. But I'll help you guys catch up to Anne later. We'll be fine. Okay, moving out of that one. And, oh, I have a free gift for everybody. If you liked that code right there, NP Gold 3M, that is a 3-month free pro gold level of Nearpod. So if you want to give it a try, NP Gold 3N dash gold. That's 3 months of free Nearpod. And again, my favorite thing about Nearpod, you guys, is that I'm going to get one report at the end of the day with all their math, all the social studies, all the thin slides, all the cyber sandwich, all in one report. And if your district is asking you for accountability in your attendance, imagine everything's in one place. That is super slick. Okay, so that wraps up my Nearpod. One thing Nearpod does is it puts your blank slides at the end. Don't feel bad, just ignore it. I just ignore those. Okay, moving towards the big finish here, folks. Oh, and by the way, let me share these slides with you guys. Is that okay? I'll share the Nearpod slides. Remember, what I do is I just open up a Google slide deck. I design things that I want. Actually, I'll show it to you guys in case you haven't seen it before. Anyone the link will view. Okay, copy link. So if I wanted to add to this slide deck, there's the slides of the Nearpod slides. I would simply go to this. I would go to, waiting for my link copy to move. Link copied. Go link copied. There we go. What I would do is I would go to add-ons. I would pick Nearpod. I would go open Nearpod. Let's say I wanted to add one more activity, you guys. Oh, of course. My internet is whack up here. I live by Yosemite, so it's kind of funky. But basically, there's an add-on that would appear right here where my Nearpod add-on would normally show up. And let's say that I wanted to do, oh, here, maybe it's going to work now. Let's see if it works. I just want to show you how easy this is. So on this syllabication slide, all I did was I made a good old Google slide, right? Just a Google slide. And I go to edit this lesson and then watch this. Convert to draw it, wait about 7 seconds. Now you can draw on the slide. That's it. It's that simple. So literally anything that kids can do on paper, you can convert to a draw it slide. Now it's ready to be drawn on. It made me cry, metaphorically speaking, all spring when I saw teachers saying this: how do I make my math worksheets editable in Kami? And I was like, brother, no, a negative. Because when you make worksheets editable in Kami and then you email them to the kids, kids like John and Paul start doing the homework and charging kids like Christy and Christina to have our PDF. The cheating is off the chart. If you're watching them do the math in front of you all together, totally different dynamic. In that case, even if they're cheating, at least you can talk to them while they're doing it. Plus, your inbox doesn't get slammed with 150 PDFs every night, because who needs that? So the question is, doing EduProtocol work in Microsoft? Yes, yes. If you go to eduprotocols.com, Christina, there's Microsoft versions of all of these. And our go-to is usually slides. And I'll tell you what, thin slides in PowerPoint's actually better because they have stuff like the Noun project built in. And there's a couple of accessibility features that Microsoft has that Google doesn't. So I would say probably 80% of our stuff is happening in the slide piece, which translates to PowerPoint very nicely. We also have the math reps available now in Jamboards. So if you like Jamboard, all those math reps are available as Jamboards as well. So I'm wrapping up here, you guys. As timing would show, perfect timing, these templates are available for free at eduprotocols.com. If you want to buy the book, that's awesome, but I'm not here to sell you guys books, okay? You can get this all for free at our website, and you can go to Twitter. And then Kim Vogie has a really, really cool Facebook page called Empowered Educator. Empowered Adventure. Empowered Adventure. She's sharing stuff like this all the time. And thank you for sticking around, Nietzsche. You were fun to be with. There are 28 official protocols, and there's probably another 40 that are in the wild, so to speak, that have not necessarily been classified yet that people are using. If you want these slides, there's the link right there. tinyurl.com, Coach Q. People will email me. Yeah, if you guys sell enough, if we sell enough books, I'll take all of you guys to Greece. How about that? It's like a co-op. There's all the slides. I will have people tell me all the time, can I share this? Can I present on this? Is it okay if I show my district? Yes. All we ask is that you be just intellectually honest and say that's an EduProtocol. Don't make up a goofy name, make it yours. That's the only thing we ask. Similar with HyperDocs, right? And then if you would like us to come and work with your school district, we love working with school districts. And we are probably, I'm going to say 70% less expensive than whatever your school district's doing right now. Our goal is to train your core teachers to think like this and then go away and go work with another district. We're not looking into training every teacher. And super secret right here, actually not that secret, we've got the math edition coming out, 15 new protocols. This whole book written by Lisa Nowakowski and Jeremiah Roosh is based on EduProtocols in the math arena, just math all the time. Here's my email. I'll put it in the chat. Feel free to tweet me and ask me questions. I love hanging out with people. Free lifetime tech support. I am not kidding. You can literally email me 2 years from now and say, you were talking about a thing in Nearpod. Can you show me that? I will totally get down and show you how to do that. I literally had a person ask me for a slide deck 5 years later. I sent it to him about 10 minutes later. Here you go. Have a good day. So jcorippo@gmail. Feel free to share. And again, my fantasy for you guys is let's enjoy teaching more because we're not as burned out. Let's enjoy teaching more because the kids are growing dramatically. We're seeing schools where kids are growing 20 and 30 points a day, you guys. That's a dramatic change. So thanks for listening to me yap all day. Have a great rest of your morning. Christina and Paul and Jennifer, I am relinquishing control back to you, and I'm going to stop my share.
Thank you. Thank you very much, John. And thank you everyone for joining us. We have just a few more things we want to go over. But first, I just want to give a big shout out to the events committee, and I'm going to let Christina go over that. But go ahead, Christina. But thank you, events committee, for putting this on. And then Christina is our events coordinator, so I'm going to let her talk for a minute.
I just wanted to quickly just say thank you to everybody for joining us today, and thank you, Jon, for sharing all your awesomeness. And hopefully everybody got some really great takeaways to bring back to their classroom or bring back to their staff. And we have a lot more awesome events coming up. And again, just keep following us on Twitter and Facebook. Check our newsletters. We have more coming. And if you ever have any suggestions, or if there's anything that you're specifically looking for that you need, send us an email, tweet at us, send us a message in Facebook. We're here for you. We're here to help you with whatever you need. And that's it. Just thank you so much. And again, just keep checking your newsletters, and because we have a lot more coming for you every month, we're going to keep trying to give you a lot of great resources and PD.
And
then, Jen, do you want to go ahead?
I like to talk about Saturday teachers, and those are people that are just a little more committed to their career and craft than people who say, if the district doesn't train me, I'm not going to do it. So I just want to say one last thing, which is thank you guys and gals for being Saturday teachers, which means you're a little more interested and a little more professional in that sense, that you're committed to your craft. So thank you for me on that too.
Yes, and thank you for joining us, Jon, and for putting together this awesome presentation. And it's true, if you ever have a question, I love reaching out to him. He's very helpful. He and Kim Vogie are both really awesome, and Amanda Sandoval, lots of cool people that they mentioned today. One event I do want to tell you about is in February. We do have another one coming up. It's at the end of February, and we're very excited about it. So it will also be a chance for you to earn graduate credit. So for those of you who need like one graduate credit, this is going to be a way to do it for less than $150. So it will be, and you can still attend the event even if you don't need the graduate credit, but it's an option for you if you want it there. And so we'll have some more information about that coming out very soon. In addition to our events committee, I wanted to give a big shout out to Schools First. Schools First is a supporter of Coach Q for 3 years now, and also just educators in general. So I just wanted to give them a couple of minutes. And then when they're done, we're going to do some raffle prizes. We have some really awesome prizes to give away for attending. So go ahead, School.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Jennifer. Hi, you guys. Thank you guys so much. First of all, thank you guys so much for all you do. I'm Jessica from Schools First Federal Credit Union. Not only saying thank you from Schools First, but thank you as a mother.